Hello everyone, PDXCON has just ended and there's a lot of new stuff to talk about coming to Stellaris, namely Lithoids and Federations. This coming Thursday, the new species pack Lithoids is releasing and I was able to play it for a little while over at PDXCON over the weekend. I got some photos but they were just off my screen from my phone, so apologies for any bad quality. I wasn't able to take proper screenshots. Here's what comes in the Lithoids species pack. For those who don't know, Lithoids are silicon-based life. They are essentially living rocks. There's 15 new Lithoid portraits and one new machine portrait based off of Lithoid visuals. They look really great and enhance the visual flavor of the game even further. There are some rock giants that sort of look like the Thing. There's suspended floating stones, overgrown sort of fungal rocks, reptilian type kind of rocks, and each come with various color differences, but none of them had clothing variety options from what I saw. There's also a new ship set available, which basically just looks like rocks or asteroids with metallic structures keeping them in place. These also look great, especially with the star bases themselves. They look like clusters of asteroids with kind of a glow in between from the color of your flag. When playing, we used console commands to just look at every ship and even used a Colossus. While it doesn't have a unique way of cracking the planet, it does have its own unique animation for how it kind of unfolds and prepares its weapon before it fires down a beam. Unfortunately, I just didn't get photos of that one, but it is my favorite looking Colossus so far. A quick description would be that it looks kind of like a rocky narrow core with several shards that are aimed horizontally, that are suspended around it, and then they spin and line up vertically with the planet and rotate around as the weapon begins to fire. It really looks great. I almost wish though that, all the shards just slammed into the planet like an asteroid, cracking it open, but unfortunately not. Now, there's also a new voice pack, which sort of sounds kind of like an Optimus Prime or some sort of Transformer. It's kind of like an American accent with a male voice, and he sounds a little bit older and very robotic, actually. Not just the traditional kind of robotic kind of overlay vocoder kind of thing on the audio. It sounds really, actually quite robotic. And as well as that, Lithoids are the first species pack to come with their own traits. It's a little bit strange, it doesn't really fit with how other species work, but it means that if you pick a Lithoid portrait, you must take a Lithoid trait. The Lithoid trait makes it so that you consume minerals instead of food. You get a 50% bonus to habitability, 50% bonus to army health, and a 50-year extra leader lifespan. This comes at the cost of a negative 25% pop growth speed, but to help them in the early game, you can actually excavate a new tile blocker on your home planet, which grants them extra pops. The idea being they're sort of digging out populations from the planet's crust, as it were. Now, just to clarify, they don't have their own unique planet types. They are rocky life forms, and all planets in Stellaris that are habitable are rocky planets, so they live on everything just fine. In fact, because of their exterior, they are hardened against the atmosphere, so they have increased habitability, like I mentioned. The Lithoids also have 3 optional traits that they can choose, so unlike the main trait, you can actually choose to take these or not, each one costing 2 trait points. Each pop with the trait will generate 0.01 of the resource as long as their living standards are slavery or better. The trait chosen determines the resource, which is one of 3 early strategic resources, either rare crystals, exotic gases, or volatile motes. This 0.01 is generated per pop, so you need 100 pops in order to gain +1 of these resources per month. Obviously though, it does build up over time either way. Now, interestingly, it does give you access to the resource very early, which means it unlocks on the market, allowing you to just buy it if you wanted much more earlier than other species. Another interesting aspect to the Lithoids is that hive mind Lithoids can use a decision to consume world, which creates tile blockers on a planet and reduces the habitability there, but will provide the swarm with minerals, alloys, or create a pop. I'm not sure how many of these kind of gameplay quirks there are like that decision above. This was just spotted in the Steam screenshots recently. Oh, and lastly, purging Lithoid pops, if you're another empire or if you're a Lithoid yourself, will produce extra minerals. So that's it for Lithoids. It is just a species pack. It's largely cosmetic and for flavor, though it does seem to have some nice little gameplay additions worth playing around with. I do sort of wish, though, personally, they just went a little bit bigger with a DLC devoted to them, like a story pack so they had more unique events, and maybe they could even colonize big asteroids or something like that. Maybe perhaps in future they will. But there you go, that's Lithoids. Next is the Federations expansion. This one isn't coming for a while. This is the big one that has its date yet to be revealed. Daniel Moregard, the game director of Stellaris, took to the stage to do a presentation on Federations and Lithoids, so I thought we'd go through some of the most interesting stuff. I also caught up with Daniel afterwards and had a nice quick chat where I got one little sort of exclusive scoop out of him with regards to Origins, so stay tuned for that. So, Federations is the next major expansion for Stellaris. Here's what we know so far. Federations focuses on an overhaul of the Federation mechanics in the game. It also comes with new mechanics such as the Galactic Community, Origins, and new Mega Constructs. So let's start with the Federation rework. There are now 5 different types of Federations: a Galactic Union, a Trade League, a Research Cooperative, a Martial Alliance, and a Hegemony. An example was given to discuss how these types are formed. The Trade League can only be formed by a megacorp or by an empire with the Merchant Guild's Civic, and apparently similar types of prerequisites are required for the others. These Federation types each have their own unique effect to those who are part of them, and also can level up over time, receiving new perks. Every Federation provides 2 perks to all of its members, and 1 perk just for the President, but the Hegemony has this in reverse. Some of these effects are passive, and some are things you can actually opt to use. The Galactic Union Federation type is apparently the default federation, making it easier to collaborate in a large federation. Now, what exactly that means is still a little bit unknown. The Trade League gives you a trade policy, which combines all of the other trade policies into one, which can be quite powerful. The Research Cooperative grants free research agreements between everyone in the cooperative. Leveling up gives perks that increase the research share to be faster, amongst other things. The Martial Alliance is orientated around large fleets, and that seems to be all we know about that so far, and the Hegemony has 1 strong member and several weaker empires around it. A passive effect of this is that it's impossible to leave without permission from the President, and the President can get a war goal to force people into their federation, so it can be a very forceful type federation if you wish it to be. Now, when asked what's the difference between a Hegemony and just having vassals, Daniel said there's still some freedom and independence within a Hegemony because they still get bonuses by being in one. The perks given to its members are that they get resource production bonuses that the President does not get, so it can still be beneficial to be in one rather than being a vassal. So how do Federations level up? Well, they need to increase something called cohesion. Cohesion takes a penalty when you have more members with diverse ethics in your federation. Now, you can offset this with envoys, which are like a new leader type, but we need a bit more information on how that works. Federation laws allow you to further customize your federation. An example regarding naval capacity was used, which said now Federation naval cap is determined by your federation level and your type. So for instance, the Research Cooperative was used as an example, which actually don't have a Federation fleet by default. They need to level up and enable a law to allow them to have one. These laws also let you decide how the next president is chosen for the Federation and for how long they reign. They can rotate, it could be random, they could go by their highest diplomatic weight, or you can have a challenge. 2 or more empires can compete for the presidency with the challenge. Apparently these can be resolved in many different ways, one of which is even psionic battle, where the collective strength of your psionic pops can try to defeat your challenger. No idea really exactly how that's done, whether it be through events or on the Federation screen itself, or in some other fashion, but there you go, it does sound pretty cool. Next is the Galactic Community, a sort of United Nations in space, making diplomacy on the galactic stage a bit more interesting. This is done through resolutions, which are effectively proposals, and if they get passed, they are like laws that affect all members of the galactic community. These are designed to be contentious, good or bad for you. Empires that are friends might even disagree on them. As an example, a resolution that increases trade value and protection, but gives up naval capacity, might work for some, but not for others. Any empire can propose a resolution, and it's added to a queue. The ones that have the most support through diplomatic weight rise to the top of the queue, and then that one is voted on every 5 years. Only one can be voted on at a time. So, diplomatic weight is determined by how much tech naval strength, and economic strength an empire has, and possibly some other factors. Those are just the ones that were mentioned. However, resolutions can be passed that actually change the importance of something contributing to diplomatic weight. This means resolutions can pass that reduce how important it is to have big navies. So if that's all certain empires really rely on to boost their diplomatic weight could be eroded over time with different resolutions, giving them less voting power within the galactic community, even though their naval strength has stayed consistent. You can call in favors of other empires to get 10% of their diplomatic weight behind something. This can help you push things up the queue that perhaps people are abstaining or just not supporting. You can also use something we mentioned called envoys, which appears to be a new leader type, although that's not confirmed, and assign them to the galactic community to increase diplomatic weight. So this is all kind of a little bit hard to get straight without really good visuals to help me along. So just to recap, you earn diplomatic weight based on certain factors to do with your empire's strength. You use this then to vote on resolutions that empires put forward. These resolutions are like laws that can help or hinder you, and they can also change how much diplomatic weight you may earn in future. Once a resolution passes or fails, the next one in the queue is voted on after 5 years, giving people time to use envoys or favors to increase the weight behind the next resolution. There are also resolutions now to establish the galactic market and something called the Galactic Council. The Council allows special powers such as vetoes or emergencies, so you can push up resolutions to the top of the queue. There are also certain resolutions that determine the galactic focus. There can only be one focus at a time, and this can be something like a focus to defeat the endgame crisis, where borders are all opened between empires and people join together to fight it. The last thing addressed with regards to the voting was the Senate floor. Now this is a tab that we haven't actually seen yet, but Daniel described it as the place where people actually do the vote on the resolution during the sessions. He said the Galactic Council can have greater influence on those votes, and you can give the council more powers over the Senate floor. We haven't seen much. I think we'll need to wait for a developer diary on that one in order to gain a broader picture of how well it all gels together. I'm a little bit confused personally on how you also get to be a part of the Galactic Council, which seems to be a separate thing than the galactic community. That was everything discussed regarding federations and galactic community. It all sounds really great. Of course, it'll be important to see how the AI handles this sort of thing, but on paper, it does sound like a fantastic addition to the game that also sounds quite dynamic. I can't wait to see what other focuses and resolutions will be available later down the line. Next up was Origins, which have a developer diary already. These are essentially the origin story of your species and also set a little bit of the framework for the beginning gameplay that you'll encounter. And there will be 18 on release of the Federation's expansion. No word yet on how many, if any, are free and how many are DLC. Several unique starts were discussed, such as the Shattered Ringworld start, the Habitat start, starting as a vassal of a fallen empire, starting on a relic world, and starting with a Tree of Life if you were a hive mind that you need to protect on your homeworld. There was also 2 discussed as part of the Q&A at the end, where one origin starts you in a hegemony and another starts you in a federation. Now I of course absolutely love the sound of these. I have to say though, allow me to wear my tinfoil hat here. It's awfully coincidental that I've created 3 narrative games and they featured a Shattered Ringworld start, Hibernation, a Federation Council, Habitat starts, and Refugees among others, which all are now origins. I don't know. Paradox don't talk to me officially anymore, but I know that sometimes they watch, as many developers told me when I met them. It would be nice if they talked to me again, because it is one thing to be blacklisted, but it's another when seemingly they agree with ideas or at least have similar ones and tell me they enjoy my videos when I meet them privately. Anyways, maybe it's pure coincidence. These are somewhat obvious origins after all that I came up with. Either way, I am very happy that they've made their way into the game officially and also can be modded in too. Now when I spoke to Daniel, he told me that his favorite origin was one he hadn't mentioned on stage, and that it's called Doomsday. Doomsday gives you around 60 years to get off of your homeworld before an impending disaster, and there are no habitable worlds nearby, so this can actually be quite challenging, according to him at least. The last thing mentioned was mega constructs. Similar to a mega structure, a mega construct can actually move around, the first of its kind being the Juggernaut, a mobile starbase and colossal warship. It can build and repair ships and is an extremely powerful war vessel in its own right, great for offensive military campaigns. No word on if it's tied to Ascension perks or what prerequisites it has before building. There's also a new megastructure, the Mega Shipyard, that is pretty self-explanatory. You can build a huge amount of ships at the same time. No word on how many just yet. And that's it for all we know about Lithoids and Federations so far. If I've missed anything or if I've gotten anything wrong, just let me know in the comments. I did try and do as much research as I could to get everything correct, but information's spilling out pretty rapidly as there's multiple streams and things going on, so it's quite possible I got some stuff wrong. So let me know in the comments. I'll be keeping up with any developer diaries for the next expansion as they come out and condense them into videos after we get a few in a row. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure you leave a like if you want to see more Stellaris preview stuff like this. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.